All right, so I have Ifeoluwa Iyaniwura on Mindfully with Tumishi today. And I'm so excited. Again, he definitely didn't want us to have this
I know.
episode. It's just not well, of course, you guys that when I have someone in the studio, I try to squeeze everything that I have and then take, do the best I want to do. But what do we do on Mindfully with Tumishi? We explore the depths of mental health with compassion and understanding. And today we're talking something I've been wanting to talk about. In fact, this was how Ifeoluwa and I met on Facebook. Yes, Ifeoluwa is another Facebook friend. It was one of those conversations we're having under Damila Gutoibo's post, isn't it? And then we went back and forth about parenting and all that. And then we found out that we have loads of mutual friends. Tiny world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So today I have Ifeoluwa Iyaniwura, and we're diving into a topic that is very dear to my heart and to her heart too, and that is parenting. Navigating the waters of parenthood. It is both rewarding and challenging, especially when it comes to balancing work, family, your own personal well-being, and all of that. So before we start on the conversation, welcome, Ife. How are you today?
Hi, Timishi. Hi, Timishi. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me. I'm a huge fan of Mindfully with Timishi, by the way. I think a lot of conversations are very interesting, and they are conversations that I think that they are very important, especially in this day and age where nonsense sells a lot more than than
Yeah, I think it was back in 2013. No, not 2013. That's 2011 that I was listening to a message by Lance Wallnell, and guess what the title was? The title was Ugly Self. And as far back as as far back as 2011, it was saying ugly self. Now uglier sells faster and moves faster, and yeah, and it's so heartbreaking. So,
and one of my mantra for years coming is to elevate my voice, is to connect more with people that have something to give. We have to try and, we can't keep saying that, oh, it's not my business. Let people just say whatever they want to say, We can't keep doing that because lives are being ruined by some of these ridiculous takes. And I just feel like if we put our voices out there, it would help someone. It would help someone to make a better decision. It would help someone to learn so that they're not making mistakes that their parents made, or they're not putting their children's lives or their own lives, or it's just to make sure that the voice of reason is not being covered.
It's not shrouded. It's not shrouded in. It's not shrouded in mediocrity. All right, so a bit of housekeeping before we get into this conversation. You know that I was.
Yes.
How are you? And you cannot say I am fine. So, Ifeoluwa, how are you?
I'm well. I mean, I've been good. I mean, life is interesting, especially the life of a mom. You're juggling different hats. You're trying to, provide. You're trying to be the best parent as well. You're trying to also show up for your friends. You're trying to pay bills. But in the middle of all of these things, I'm okay, to be fair. I am fine.
Good to know. All right, so I know that the first question I'm going to ask you is the cultural expectations and social pressures and how that influences parenting. And I'm starting from there because I know, for those who know you, you are not based in Nigeria, and this is virtual. We wanted to have it. We wanted to have this one-on-one, but Lagos traffic didn't let it. That's fair. So, but then you have experienced both. Well, you're living in both cultures, the Nigerian culture, the Yoruba culture to be specific, and then, of course, the British culture. So, in your own words, how do cultural expectations and societal pressures influence parenting approaches and perceptions?
Thank you. It's quite interesting, to be fair, how I've never really, until now when you ask that question, I've never really thought about how extreme both worlds are when it comes to parenting. You have in Nigeria where we grew up in like authoritarian households where it's the parents' way or no way, right? Now coming to the UK, you have permissive parenting where children are the bosses, where children are the bosses. And when you dig deep into their own culture as well, it was not always like that. It evolved over the years. It was not always the fact that children will have their way. Children will do whatever they like. Children, don't get me wrong, there's still the odd one or two people who still practice what I call gentle parenting.
Okay.
But I think that I'm going to define what gentle parenting means.
I wanted to finish this, then we will go to gentle parenting. Yeah.
Where you see a lot of people practice gentle parenting, and also I've also seen people practice authoritarian parenting also in that side of the world. But you find more people practice the permissive parenting type of thing, And you also need to understand that in that world, there's a lot of emphasis on mental health. Like there's a lot of mental health is a big thing. Mental health is a huge part of, we are not only looking after people's physical health, we are also looking after, in comparison now to Nigeria now, if you speak to the average British person, they will tell you that, mental health in the UK is rubbish, it's not as great, But if I'm comparing it to, I know, if I'm comparing it to my country, my birth country, of course, it's so much better, So there's that. And as an immigrant living in the UK, you're trying to find a balance between instilling the Yoruba culture in your children and also not overdoing it to damage them. Do you understand? So it's a constant battle. So what I have done over the years is to just pick the best of both worlds.
I'm with you.
Do you understand?
Yes,
I've looked at both cultures and I've... What did you say?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, what?
No,
okay.
No.
I've just looked at both cultures and I've decided, what is the best in this culture? I'm taking it. What is the best in this one? I'm taking it. And the method I have personally decided to adopt. And it's working for me perfectly. My kids will respect their elders, they will courtesy, like we do in the Yoruba culture. They will courtesy. They will not speak over adults. They will not speak rudely to adults. It also doesn't mean that they are not assertive. I don't know if
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Sees around. It also doesn't mean that they're not being listened to. It also doesn't mean that if an adult is trying to talk over them or listen to them or treat them like rubbish, I will stand up for them. So it's just being able to identify when an adult is being overbearing and also protect your child from an overbearing adult, over also balancing the fact that you also don't want your child to be rude to adults. So, and to be fair, I think I can say that I'm doing a good job of that at the moment.
What I say to my children is,
I know that's supposed to
stop trying to toot your horn, please. I know I say to my children, I want you to be confident but not rude. I want you to be confident but not rude. I want you to be assertive but not rude. And of course, it is a pull push thing, because of course, in the four corners of our home, we can come to mommy and say, mommy, and then you go out, there's a different culture out there that is so totally different than theirs, and they're still struggling. And I think that I enjoy the fact that they go out, they struggle, and they try to find themselves in the middle of some culture that is not the cuckoo culture, like the other cuckoo culture, and they're like, okay, this happened outside, and I'm there to say to them, okay, fine. You don't know how this person was taught or how they're growing and all that. So when you are outside, you are a cuckoo and you're going to project a cuckoo, but you're not going to be rude. Understand that these people don't have the same training that you have. But there are a couple of things that you've said, and I want us to just... you said what?
Okay, no, I'm just echoing what you said.
Okay.
That knowing that you also need to, the children need to be aware that not every child you're not raised in the same home as all your friends. So they will not have the same values as you. They will not have the same culture as you. They will. So, and again, that is also something that I think for children that are born to people like us in the in the UK, I find it stressful for them because they're dealing with different cultures, to be fair. They have Chinese friends, they have Indian friends, they have Ghanaian friends, they have Senegalese friends, they have they have West Indies, they have everything. Do you understand? And everybody has different cultures. So you have a child who is just trying to figure out, but it also makes them very intelligent. On the flip side of that, it makes them super, super intelligent because they understand people's cultures. They understand the differences in their way of lives, in the way they eat, in the way they greet, in the way they, I know a lot of my children's friends who curtsy to greet me. They're not Yorubas. They don't understand why we even do it, but they know that is how these child greets our parents. And they've not, do you know what I mean? They'll be like, that's their culture. And of course, I expect my child to do the same when she goes into those households, to look at what they do and just respect those cultures and just do what, just whilst you're there, you know how Indians will touch their parents' feet and all of those. I don't know if you've noticed Indians.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I
see. Exactly, I see my child do that to our Indian friends as well. Do you get what I mean? So it makes them quite exposed. It makes them quite. Their mind is open. Very open. They're open-minded. They're super intelligent.
The prejudice is minimal. The margin of prejudice is very minimal. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
All right.
It's very minimal, yes. The margin of prejudice is it's 0 to none.
Right. So you said you used 3 terms, and of course, some of us are used to hearing helicopter parenting, but you've used 3 that I want us to hone on before we continue this conversation. You used authoritarian, you used permissive, and you were going to explain to us what gentle parenting is. And I know that a lot of people I know for a fact that a lot of people wonder why we label styles of parenting, and in this context, I would embrace labeling, because if you do not know what you are doing, you don't know what you should do better, or yourself. Take us through authoritarian, permissive, and gentle parenting.
So in this context, I don't like labeling as well, Timothy, to be fair. You and I know that one of the things I push back on is labels, but in the context of English language, and just to define, in social construct, you have different definitions for different types of leadership styles, parenting styles. This is pretty much just what it is. It's just English. Anybody can devise their own method of how they want to parent their child. It's your child, it's your business. You can do whatever you like, But just for the sake of this conversation, without going too much into technical details, because I don't want to, for the layman who is listening to this, I don't want to confuse them, and I don't want to be something that they're leaving this conversation and they are more confused. In layman's terms, authoritarian parenting is the type of parenting where it's the parent's way or no way. In layman's terms, that's just what it is. Where the parents are the authority figure in the home. They lay down the rules and everybody has to follow those rules to the letter. There's no in-betweens. There's no conversations. There's no if and, they have the way. If you don't go through with it, there are consequences, and those consequences can be very fatal. That is my definition of what authoritarian parenting means. Now, permissive parenting, on the other hand, is where children are really allowed to do whatever they want to do. Your child doesn't want to go to bed at 9 o'clock. It's okay. They can go whenever they like. There are no rules. There are no boundaries. There are no, it's a laissez-faire kind of where everybody just doesn't like. We're just, it's just vibes and inshallah. There's no, we're just good. We're just cool, parenting, and that's the permissive parenting. And that is in layman's terms now. The gentle parenting, on the other hand, is the type of parenting where the parent puts in a lot of work to ensure that they're a team. They're working as a team. The child is the child. The parent is the parent. However, we're working as a team. There are rules, there are boundaries, there are consequences for flaunting those boundaries. However, there are explanations as to why you need to follow the rules. If mommy hurts the child and the child feels like she's not been listened to, mommy can apologize to the child. She say, okay, I'm sorry, what happened this morning? Let's try again tomorrow. Like I said, I don't know if I've explained gentle parenting very well, but in layman's terms, it's a lot deeper than that.
Oh yeah, I would
pretty much a situation
go ahead,
in a home where in a home where the parent is still the parent, the child is still the child. Everybody understands boundaries, including the parents also understand their boundaries in terms of the child. The child understands their boundaries in terms of the parents, and everybody, I'm not your friend, I'm your mom. So just everybody taking responsibility for their roles and responsibility. And also there are clear boundaries, there are clear rules that has to be followed by everybody. It's just not the rules and the boundaries is not just for the child, it's also for the parent. And we are now working together as a team. We're having conversations where we're working together as a unit, so that is in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. So I'm going to be Yoruba, with what you just said now. It sounds like that Yoruba. I'm sure anyone who's listening to this show have I've heard this adage countless times. But what you just said now sounds to me as the basis of the Yoruba adage that says the wisdom of the old, the wisdom of the young, is what comes together, is what marries together to burst that effect and all that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that I don't know when we pulled away from that, because I am of the opinion that if our ancestors thought it imperative to have such an adage, they knew that it was important for us to take also from the wisdom
Yeah.
of the young and all that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there was the two words that jumped out on me during this conversation about gentle parenting, and that's what you said, where everyone takes responsibility and accountability for what happens within the team. You know, I get the concept totally. But I'm struggling. I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone who grew up authoritarian, or someone who grew up permissive, or someone who had helicopter parents, and they're trying to juggle all of this. This is where the mental health question comes in, because that's what the question is, isn't it? Like, okay, this child, I need to serve this child, and I need to serve myself too, on the way to making sure that I steward this child properly. So, this question, I don't know how it's going to come off, but hey, let's go. So, how then can parents navigate the challenges of raising children in these times of digital everything?
You can see I rolled my eyes a little bit there because we need to understand. So I think a lot of parents need to also understand that things are not the same anymore. It's not business as usual. If you don't raise your child well, the world will raise your child for you. So you then need to choose. You need to choose your battle. And whatever battle you've chosen, whatever results you get, just take it. Right? I worry when I see adults, do you understand? My age or your age to Michelle, saying things like, oh, I'm not tech savvy. Oh, I'm not social media savvy. Oh, I'm not this. Oh, I'm not that. I'm like, okay, your children are tech savvy. You don't want to not be in a world where the gap is so wide that you can't fit in anymore. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh,
there are certain games that my children, do you get what I mean? There are certain games. Technology is so advanced now that, do you know that the Gen X, the 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds of now, they don't even consider, do you know they have their own social media? Do you know that? They don't even consider Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. They don't consider those ones social media. They have their own social media.
Are you for real?
Do you know that?
I didn't.
I am for real. They do. They don't care about Instagram. They don't care about... No, they don't. They have their own world. That if you go into that world, you can't even understand what is being done or said there. So now imagine a parent that does not even know Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok. How do they navigate
and all of that? Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Now, I'm not saying that parents should go on these platforms because they want to engage their children. No. We need to have a constructive way of living, be open-minded, explore tech. Do you understand? Explore technology, embrace technology, because technology is the future.
It's going nowhere, actually. It's going nowhere.
That's going nowhere. So you can't say that, I mean, if my mom, my 70-year-old mom, is saying she can't navigate Instagram, I can understand, But my age, your age, who have teenage children are saying, oh, they can't. I'm sorry, you have a lot of work to do, because your children are navigating this world, and you need to be able to navigate those worlds with them. You need to be able to answer some questions. You can't shy away from this.
Yeah, and then not shut them up when they ask us questions. Okay, I think
exactly. You need.
Yeah.
You don't even need to have all the answers all the time. I don't have all the answers all the time. There are times when I've been asked certain questions and I'm like, can I reply tomorrow? Because I don't know the answers of now. But I can find out and I will come back to you. Do you understand? There's so many times there's so many times when I've been asked certain questions. And honestly, I just don't have the answer in the minute. But I would not shut down that conversation, because there's a reason why they asked. Sometimes they also ask you because they're trying. So the thing is, when you've built a certain level of trust with your children, right? They trust that you are the real deal. They trust that you know all the answers. They trust that you have the right answers. It's not like they don't know the answer, but they don't trust the answer that they have. Right? And the reason why they've come to us is because if I can hear me, the right answer. Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Please repeat I said, that. It's not that they don't have
a level of trust with you. It's not like they don't have the answers. They just don't believe that that answer that they have is the right answer. Or they want a second opinion before they decide which answer they are going with. Right?
Wow.
So if your child now comes to you to ask you that question, if you shut them down, what you've done is you're breaking that trust bit by bit. That's number one. Number two, what you've done is that you have given them the right to go with the answer that they have. Now, bear in mind, you don't know the answer that they have.
Wow.
Right? You don't know whether that answer, because Google has, if you type anything on Google, Google has all sorts of information there. A lot of them are false. A lot of them are not true. You do not want your child to be asking Google all the time when they need an answer to a question. Because there's also a wisdom that comes with age, which you have as a parent, which you have as an adult.
All right. So,
right? I always know when my children me for okay, go ahead, Tumishe, go.
So I was going to, because I want us to balance this parenting thing with the parents themselves and the children. Yeah, we've spoken about children and how we should, and all that. But I'm also looking at parents, single parents, male and female. There are male single parents. So it's not only just female single parents. I'm looking at single parents who are struggling to balance work life and and these days mental health. So, and I know you are a registered nurse. What role does self-compassion play in effective parenting, especially during times of stress and uncertainty? And what makes me ask this question is what she said. And I've said to people, when people come to my space and we're talking, and I say you again, you are the expert here, so you can correct me. I say to them that I think the major what I see as the major challenge is parents trying to be superheroes. Parents not wanting their children to see their vulnerability, parents not wanting to be vulnerable. But this is a personal thing that I have tried. I know that when the point at which I've been vulnerable with my children, it has it has cemented, so they know. Like, let me tell you, one of the most mundane things, the most mundane. There are other things I would say, but this particular one is extremely mundane. I am mathematically challenged. Don't bring to me. I say to my children, language, everything, arts, you can get science my way. I'm going to mess your papers up. Don't just wait for your daddy. And of course, initially, my children, when they were younger, they would like, no, but mommy, we need to help. I said, do you want you to fail? And if you fail this paper, you say it's mommy that helped you.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
I don't know it. And it's become, what's it called? It's become like an anecdote in my house. And somebody, don't give it to mommy, or mommy will not just wait for daddy. And again, it's a very mundane, example. And the other example is, I can't say this. The other example is quite sensitive, and the reason I was asking myself if I could say it is because, hey, it was the last time I attempted suicide back in 2020, and my children were at home. It was during COVID, and my children were at home. They saw people come to the house. It was August 2020, and of course they were confused. And my husband was saying, no, I shouldn't tell them. I said, no, I'm going to tell them. I'll break it down as layman as I could. Mommy is living with bipolar affective disorder and what. And I am so grateful that I did that. Because after we had that conversation, the very next day, you know what my daughter did? She's an artist, you know that. She wrote me place cards. She wrote me 14 place cards. You were loved. God loves you. Whenever you need to speak, if you can speak to your friends, you have Jola and I. 14, they're still by my bedside. That day cemented for me that I am not going to be a superhero to my children anymore. We are going to have conversations. So that's what led to this question that I just asked now, that what role does self-compassion play in effective parenting?
I think a lot of people don't even know what compassion means in the first place. They can't even, you can't give what you don't have, to Michelle. And one of the things that I say to people is that when you love yourself first, you can love other people. When you love yourself first, you can when you have self-compassion to yourself, you can show compassion to other people. The work of being a parent comes with a lot of self-compassion to yourself first. I think single moms who are killing it are amazing. Most of the single parents that I know who are doing a good job of raising their children have done a lot of work on their persons. Should I say that again?
Please.
A lot of people, especially single parents, who are doing a job of raising their children by themselves, have done a lot of self-introspection. They've gone to therapy. They are constantly working on themselves to be better. Hence why their children see that mom or dad is giving this, if you've done work on yourself, yeah, when people say things like, oh, the way our parents raised us, we turned out better, we turned out well. I'm like, are you sure you turned out well? I can analyze in fact, right now, I can tell you 10 things that shows that you did not turn out well. And I also think that stems from the fact that when we say well, people look at well from you have a good job, you have from the things that are so fickle, material things. Do you understand? When people say, oh, you'll be turned out well, they're looking at your physical riches, they're looking at your job, they're looking
your
at
resilience.
you have kids.
That's the resilience.
Exactly. They're not looking at your character. They're not looking at your personality. They're not looking at whether you have emotional intelligence. They're not looking at whether you have cultural intelligence. They're not looking at whether you have sense. Do you understand? Let's even use our normal Nigerian lingo as sense. They're just looking at we turn well. We see a lot of cases of domestic violence every day. Husbands killing their wives killing their husbands, fathers leaving their, walking out on their marriages, not looking back, not looking after their kids. What did you think happened? It's because they didn't have, when the foundation is bad, the building will fall at some point.
What can they do?
It won't stand. So self-compassion is very important. And I think one of the first things to recognize in terms of self-compassion is to understand that you don't know it all as a parent. You're also not the savior. You're not Jesus. Understand your limits. Understand how far you can go. Understand, be vulnerable with your kids. And the funny thing again to me is that kids know when you're losing it. They know. There's no point lying to them that you're strong when you're not. Do you get what I mean? Like, it doesn't add up. And again, kids are very funny. Kids don't operate on do as I tell you to do. They operate on do as they are
saying. Yeah.
They are modeling every single thing. They're modeling you. They're modeling you. So if you want a child to be vulnerable with you, but you are always tightening what to chest, you're always stuck up, you're always showing up as a superhero, you're always showing up as the strong woman, they will not be vulnerable with you.
What importance is a family culture, a family set of values and rules important? What importance is it, or how does it affect or influence how a child grows up? I'll give you an example. It just happened last night. So my son calls, is in boarding school. My son calls around 7:30, 7:45, and he of course he didn't call me. He called the dad, and his dad said, "Do you want to talk to your mom?" And without blinking, my son went, "She's awake." What? And I went to him and said, "No, you're not awake. What you? 6 o'clock, 6:37 at most." And as funny as it sounded when he said it yesterday, I was glad that he knew already he's going to be 13. They know already that 6 o'clock, 6:30, no. You don't, and they understand why that happens. They understand because I do not sleep well at night, and whenever I get my sleep, this is my energy level and all that. So these are cultures that that's what I mean by culture, different kinds of values. So you are as an expert, what is the importance of, you said earlier about boundaries, so I'm linking everything together now. You know, what is
It
the
does.
importance?
It gives boundaries, yeah. It gives stability. It supports you when you have family values that your child understands. It's not enough to have values. The most important thing is for your child to
be well
understand those values.
communicated.
And you also need to understand that it's just not enough also to set those rules. It's about making sure that we're all following those rules. That is how your child will know that we have family values. Everywhere we go, one of the things that people say about my children is that they are kind, they are respectful, they want to help out. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
But that is who I am on a daily basis. Do you get what I mean? I have a lot of empathy for people. I'm very respectful. I respect people's spaces. I respect.
Yes, you are very respectful. You are very respectful. Everybody is master. Oh yeah, you are. Go ahead. I'm going to throw that in.
I remember the first time my daughter's crew leader, in their school, they have crew leaders. I remember the first time she met me. After that conversation, there was one thing she said that struck me. She said, I can see why Joy is the way she is. Just speaking to you for the last 20 minutes, it had to.
How high did your head swell when you heard that? Like, I can imagine your heart going in the
I was high like this. Me. So it's not in. It's when you do work on yourself, you will find out that you don't need to do so much work with your kids. You don't need to shout. You don't need to. Just work on yourself first.
Work on yourself first.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let the work start with you. Stop. Don't point the fingers at everybody else. Start with yourself. Whenever there's a misunderstanding, whenever there's a squabble between myself and my kids, I look at myself first. What could I have done better? I'm the adult. Remember, you're the adult. So before you point fingers, what could you have done better? Could I have communicated better? In my line of work, we reflect every day. In my line of work, we practice what we call evidence-based practice, and we practice what we call reflective practice. Reflective practice pretty much means that, you're looking after patients on a daily basis. Things will not always go well. But what they want you to do is to reflect on what didn't go well and figure out how you could have handled that situation better. So that tomorrow, when the situation presents itself, because it will present itself, how would you manage that situation better so that you don't get the same result that you got yesterday? But remember that this is my work, right? I have to do it because we have to give good customer service. So I have now taken that aspect of my work, I've added it to the way that I parent.
Wow.
It's an issue. It didn't go well. How could I have handled this situation better? So that when that presents itself again next week, I can manage that situation better so that I can get a different result from the result I got last week. So, see, parenting is not about getting it right all the time. You won't get it right all the time. What you do is when you didn't get it right is what matters. When you didn't get it right, did you just sit What did you do? You can't do it the same thing all the time and expect the same results. Sorry, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over the same way and expect to achieve a different result. No, it's garbage in, garbage out. What you put in is what you will get.
Okay, so we're going to round off this conversation around mental health, of course, because we know that everybody is protecting their mental health. So the first part of this question is, how can parents recognize and address their own mental health needs as they raise children?
The tricky one. It's a tricky one. Reason being that one of the ways by which you can recognize, you see, mental health is a spectrum. Right? There is let's say it's a spectrum from 0 to 20, right? You have 0 on one hand, you have 20 on the other end, and then you have 10 in the middle. So let's choose 10 as the good mental health.
The equilibrium, yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's an equilibrium, right? 0 is, 20 is when you are doing really well, right? Identifying when you are tilting towards 8, 7, 6. See, mental health is like physical health. Let's take cancer, for example. When they say somebody has stage 4 cancer on the 10th of March 2024, that stage 4 cancer did not appear out of the blues on that day. That stage 4 cancer started 10 years ago, give or take. But it was until it got to that stage. It's the same way your mental health is. You creep to 9, you don't do anything about it, it deteriorates back to 8. You don't do anything about it, it deteriorates back to 7.
And then you
don't
just
do
keep
anything
going
about it, it deteriorates back to 8. Until it gets to 0, when you now need medication. Right? Parents need to understand when they are stressed. Again, I'm a recovering shouter. I'm putting my hands up. I shout, My voice is loud when I'm upset about it. But is shouting okay? No, it's not. Do you understand? And one thing I've constantly realized is that shouting is not a reflection of what the kids did. No, it's because you're stressed.
It's because because you've not even resolved your own question. You don't know how to respond.
It's because you've not resolved whatever is going in your head, in your mind, or you don't know how to respond to that situation. You can pass your message across assertively without shouting. Right?
Yeah.
So, are you constantly stressed? Do you have so much work? Are you in relationships that is taking a lot out of you and not giving back to you? Are you constantly working to provide? Are you always on the go without no breaks, no rests? Are you always even having relationships that take so much out of you is very draining mentally? There's what we call the life balance wheel assessment, where you look at your relationships, you look at your finances, you look at your physical health, you look at your love life, you look at your community, you look at everything. Dissect it. Grade yourself. How am I doing in all these areas? That is how you know whether your mental health is going down or you're okay. But one of the, I think for me, again, I'm not a mental health expert, so I try not to say a lot around mental health, because mental health is a huge conversation.
Oh, it is a huge conversation.
We can't even exhaust. Huge conversation, But a lot of people, especially adults, who are working to put money on the table, who are working to put food on the table, are constantly sacrificing their mental health to show up for people, including their children, including their friends. Sometimes it's okay to say no. Sometimes it's okay to take a break. Sometimes it's okay not to get out of bed. How does that look like? Do you have a community? Do you have parents? Do you have friends that will support you? Do you have a safety net that you can bank on? Can you take your children to your mom for the weekend to look after them? Can you rely on your friends? So again, that conversation can segue into, okay, so what kind of friends do you have? Does that make sense? So it's very interesting.
The segue into the community and the tribe that you have that can help you balance your self-care and mental health. It's a whole lot. It's a whole conversation on its own, because if you have a community, because some people would have community and tribes that drain them. That's the truth. And they also, in this community and tribe that drains them, they'll also have some people who help them. So it is, let's not even start that. That's a conversation on its own. But what I've heard you say is, take it yourself.
What kind of person are you?
I didn't get that.
Because people are a good friend. Do you understand what I? So, like, what kind of person are you yourself? Because you cannot give what you don't have, and you can't expect what you're not giving. You can't expect to come back to you. It's entitlement. It doesn't make sense. It won't add up.
It won't add up. So finally, do you have any resources and maybe support networks? I know you're in the UK, just in case you have affiliates in Nigeria. Do you have resources or support networks that are available to parents? I also know that I know people who are listening in the UK and outside in the diaspora, actually, who may be struggling to balance their mental health and, or starting, or this parenting journey and balancing their mental health, family work, and all of that. Do you have any resources for us?
So for me, right, I have always been huge on community. I'm very huge on community because I believe that you cannot do life alone. You need support, you need help. And because I've always had that awareness, for some reason, I always find communities that align with my values, that align with what I'm looking for, that align with my own core values. In terms of resources, there are so many resources out there. It's a world of, the thing is, it just depends on what you're looking for. There are so many parenting communities, parenting forums, but again, you need to be careful because at the moment, we are suffering from information overload, all of us. In the midst of abundance, there can be, in the midst of abundance, there can be. Start within. Start within. Start within. When you put your mind to something, you will find the exact. Don't compromise on what you're looking for. That's also one thing. If there's certain information you're looking for, if you feel like you're struggling in one area of your life and you feel like you need support from that area, write those things down to the littlest details. So that when you find a community, they tick those boxes. If they tick 4 out of 5, that is not what you need.
Whoa.
Because you will find the one that ticks all the 5. You just need to find it. One of the ways, so for me, I'll use Facebook as an example. I find that a lot of the people that I interact with on Facebook are people that share the same ideologies as me.
Yeah.
You know, we don't always agree on the same thing. Wrong, we don't. Myself and Timothy, we don't agree on a lot of things a lot of times, but we meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Because that in life, it's you. In fact, if you have, I'm worried about you guys because it means that you're not learning. We didn't grow up in the same family. We didn't grow up in the same, in the
same community. We didn't have the same experiences. Yeah, true.
Exactly. We didn't have the same experiences growing up. So we are not going to have or form the same opinions, But the most important thing that I find in the people that I relate with on those spaces is that one thing that we have in common is that we respect each other's boundaries, respect each other's opinions. And personally, that is my own person. Respect, boundaries, very important.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In fact, can you hear me?
Let's use the word algorithm now. Okay. Algorithm will bring it to you. So in terms of resources, Timish, I'm sorry, I can't on top of my head now because it's really parenting is huge.
Parenting is huge.
I don't know
what's going to happen. What's going to happen?
I don't want to point somebody in a direction where.
So probably what's going to happen is in the show.
Go ahead.
So what's going to happen in the show notes of the description of this particular episode, share some links with me, and I'll look for some links. I'll add them to the show notes so people can begin to help themselves. And of course, at the risk, it's my show. At the risk of selling myself, one way you can start to serve yourself is probably get a copy of Living Mindfully, A Journey to Being. I didn't say, it's not like I even told a whole lot of stories there, but what I've done with Living Mindfully is curate 6 things that I do, exercises that I do that helps me to serve myself and give myself some grace and credit while as I am navigating my stories, other people's stories, and making sure that living in this noisy world can be very, very uncomfortable. So you can do yourself well and get a copy of that book. Would do well. So final words as we go.
Final words. There's help available if you need it. Don't compromise. Be a good person. What goes around comes around. I believe in that. That's just a joke to me.
Anna.
But but don't compromise on your values. Don't give up, and look after yourself. Look after yourself. Look after your mental health. Look after your physical health. Whatever self-care looks like to you. My own idea of self-care will not be your idea of self-care, but whatever, as little as it might sound, as tiny as it may look, whatever the idea of self-care sounds to you, be consistent with it. You'll be surprised that when you drop those little tiny drops, it's forming a huge deposit in your mind, and you'll be surprised when you need it, how much you can bank on it. And also, always make sure that you are grateful, because sometimes we lose sight of the things that we have when we're going through difficult times, or when we're going through dark times, or when we're going through lack. We lose sight of the things that we should be grateful for. Fill up your gratitude jar, and you will be shocked how much you have that you can use to fill the blanks of the things that you don't have.
Oh, that's so sweet. And I'll round this out. Love yourself, love your neighbor, love your country. Above all of this, love God. He is the essence of your being. I'm still holding on to Ifeoluwa, and we're talking marriage next. This one, I'm hoping that I'll be able to hold her, because this is the one that she likes to talk about. All right. So until next time, next week, when you hear Ifeoluwa talking about marriage, stay curious.